What's going on, people? How y'all doing tonight? Welcome to another edition of Real Talk for Real Men. Alexa, pause. Alexa, pause. So we're gonna do I have a conversation tonight on the conversation on Real Talk for Real Men tonight is going to be dealing with a serious subject. So I invite everybody who subscribe to my channel. Hopefully, you're seeing me live. Feel free to come on board. Participate in the conversation tonight. This is actually my first time going live from the YouTube platform, even though I have the channel, because normally I'm using a different medium. So I'm always expanding, trying to do a few things, a couple of things new. So I'm going to see if this works. Hopefully, we'll be able to make this thing happen. So for my YouTube family, for my Facebook family, for my Instagram family, I'm trying to incorporate everybody into the conversation. So we're going to see if we can kind of bring everybody together. So bear with me because we're doing a little something little new tonight. But we're going to see if we can bring everybody in. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue and keep the conversation going. And so I'm adding people on. So just so you know, I'm bringing in my co-host. How you doing tonight, McMac? I'm doing pretty good. So I didn't start out with music because I was explaining to my audience that I'm trying to incorporate several different types of audiences in tonight's show to try to marry the family from YouTube to Instagram to Facebook. So I know I've sent out some invites. So I'm trying to be live on both mediums. So I'm already live on YouTube. And of course, I'm on StreamYard, which is casting to the other mediums as well. And so we're gonna see if this thing crack a lacking here in a minute. I see my sisters coming on. Sherry, how are you doing this evening? All right. So as usual, I like to check in with everybody before I get started in my topic. So how everybody feeling on this inauguration day? Tasha says just another Wednesday for her. Okay. How you doing, D? We're doing good, sweetheart. Missed you on Saturday's show. Your presence was definitely missed. You know, I understand, sweetheart. I understand. Well, how are you doing this evening? Fantastic. So yeah, we're gonna have an interesting show. I want to give a couple of people maybe two or three more minutes, and we'll get started. As I was telling everybody, I'm live on YouTube as well as live on StreamYard, and I'm broadcasting it to Instagram and Facebook all at the same time. I'm trying to marry all of the possible mediums to try to get a little bit more exposure. So uh, if you guys see me kind of hesitating, that's only because I'm switching back and forth between them to be able to try to pick up audience members from different mediums. So we're going to do that. Tasha has already posted the link for tonight's show. I also posted the link for tonight's show on my actual Facebook page in big bold if you need it. What's up, Carlos? How you doing? Appreciate you logging in, my brother. In about 2 more minutes, we're going to get into this subject like we always do. Everybody know that on Wednesdays we try to, bite a little meat from the bone. So we're going to do that tonight. So that's what we're going to do. But I'm in a pretty good mood today. For Tasha, it was just another Wednesday for me. It was waking up from a 4 year national nightmare. So my energy level is up. Today was a good day. I've watched different bits and pieces of it, but it's just great to turn the page. To have something new, and hopefully we can be moving back in the right direction. Derek, what's going on, D? Appreciate you, my brother. You're welcome to come on live. That link is posted there. Tasha already posted it. It's also posted on my page. You're welcome to come on live and be a in studio guest. But if you choose to stay in the green room, please participate. I ask you guys to please ask questions. Myself, Tasha, will be monitoring this all night. We'll try to get in as many questions, answered or your viewpoints. Also, of course, since you're on, invite somebody else to join. Call a friend, text a friend while you're watching to say, hey, check this show out. Even if they come in for 20, 30 minutes, check it out, see what we're doing. And so, with that said, we're gonna go ahead on and we're gonna get started. And hopefully we'll get some people to join us, you know, as we get into the topic, I try not to do this on CP time. So I try to be, you know, I'm here, you guys are here. So so we're gonna get this thing cracking since we are here. Tonight is one a topic we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about family secrets, and we're getting Kennard to join us. What's going on, Mr. Kennard? Oh man, doing good tonight. So appreciate you for joining us as always. Looking forward to your views. And so we're going to be talking about family secrets. As you guys always know, I try to tackle some of this more serious content on Wednesdays. I just think it's a good feel for the middle of the week to have those kind of serious conversations, and everything's not always about fluff. So before I get into the subject matter, I want to get you guys' opinion when you think about family secrets. What exactly comes to mind? And before calling anybody, what comes to mind when you think about family secrets? Okay. Anybody else? Very, very well said. Very well said. Yeah. You know, absolutely. 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 And you guys set me up perfectly because of where you were leading, Kennard. We're going to talk about how did we even get here? And I love the word that you used, Tasha. You called it dysfunction. If ever there was dysfunction, it's within the black family, on so many different levels. So I thought it was dubious that you used that word. It was right on time. You know, we're as African American people, we're strong, we're resilient, probably the most resilient people on the planet with all we've gone through, but we are very dysfunctional on so many different levels, and there's so many different layers to it. And as Kennard was saying, a lot of this can be traced back to secrets that's been kept in the family. And believe it or not, a lot of it comes from so-called stable institutions like marriage, like family, like church. And so we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I wanted to kind of set the table with that how as we all have become friends and we have friendships, and you're talking to people and you're getting to know them, and sometimes there's a tendency to think that, man, my family is really screwed up. Oh my God, they just can't be as bad as us. And as you get older, you come to find out that, man, there's a lot of people out there, and sometimes you have to sit back like, damn, they more screwed up than we are. You know what I'm saying? because believe it or not, in just about every family, there's these secrets. There's these scabs that are covering over canker sores, that we don't talk about. You know what I'm saying? And so comedians, if they do, I think, in my opinion, the best job of anybody when it comes to talking about family secrets because they bring humor to it. But in the midst of humor, they're talking about real thing. If you think of some of the greatest comedians of all time, they're the most flawed, scarred people in the world from Family Secrets. The Richard Pryors, the Robin Williams, you know, the Freddie Prinze Juniors who killed themselves. A lot of these names you might not even know. If you dig and pull the curtain back on some of these people, man, these are people that were molested, had abusive parents, come from some of the most horrific backgrounds, you know. And then when you talk about, in particular, welcome Candace, African American people, the question is, how did we get here? The question is, how did we get here? How do we get to a point where in the African American family, we keep so many family secrets? And I'm going to talk about some of this, but anybody, how do you think we got here as African Americans? Because on the surface, we're brass people, we're not a shy people, we out front. Why do you think it when it comes to the most tragic things about our histories and our families that we keep those as secrets? How do you think we got here? Any right? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a true valid point. And that's kind of what I was talking about, that how we present ourselves, as so, confident. We come across as the most confident people in the world, but a lot of it's just image and it's mirror. D, you had something to say. I don't want you to forget your thought. That's the one right there. And Derek agrees with you. He had posted in the commentary section, embarrassment. That's the biggest one. I think it's a level of embarrassment because we are a proud people, you know, and if you're of a particular age, like I am, me and my sister, growing up, we grew up with those sayings, you don't tell nobody what's going on in your house. What happens here stays here. Don't you take my business outside this house. It was embedded in you to keep secrets. You believe it or not, it was you were taught that from infancy. You got hit in the mouth if you went out and told, I'm talking about the most smallest things, what you had for dinner, because the idea that you would tell people what's going on inside your mama's house, It was an embarrassment, and so that's a huge one right there, that for us, that's one of the ways that we got here. Candace, did you have anything to say? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you was holding a comment. I'm sorry. Very, very, very good point. How many of you have heard the expression, and it's usually applied towards kids, be heard and, be seen and not heard, and we tell our kids that. Tasha raised her hand. Well, guess what? To Candace's point, that was the way it was in slavery times. That was actually from what slavery was, because we weren't considered people. A black person was, not even a three-fourths of a man. We were we were chattel, we were property. And so if you even go back and look at some of the movies when you think about slavery, black people was in the room, but they were talked about as if they weren't there because they weren't real, because it was inbred in us to be seen and not be heard. And ironically, that system was passed down within our own culture, and we passed it down to our own children, our own families you know and so you wonder why we have spawned generations of kids that have gotten molested by Catholic church members and uncles and things, because they were taught to keep it quiet, to not tell anybody. And that's one of the ways that we've got here you know and then I would be remiss if I didn't talk about religion's effect on keeping secrets. you know I think everybody on this panel here is somewhat religious except D. And I believe this is one of the reasons why it turns her off, is because of the level of hypocrisy, and the damage that she's probably seen it do to people. And for me, that's even one of the reasons why it turned me away from religion and to more spirituality. Because like you, D, I have seen the hypocrisy in organized religion, and how you're taught to keep things secret, to keep it in house, you know. And so that's a major role in just about every religion, believe it or not, because religion teaches you that God is going to handle things. So you keep it inside, and we sing these hymns that God is D is looking at me with that face, but that's a big reason why a lot of this has happened. Of course, everybody knows, what happens for the centuries, with the Catholic Church, you know, but they're the ones that get the lion's share of it. But don't think for one moment that it doesn't happen and Baptist churches, you know what I'm saying? Amongst other religions, that it just happens very differently. It may not be children, but there's secrets where they preying on church members and other ways. But again, because we want to hold our ministers, our preachers, our elders, or whatever else up so high, the embarrassment of exposing them, that we as a people, we don't want to expose our leaders, you know, to that level. We just had Martin Luther King Jr. Day. What day was that? Monday? Monday. So I was sitting there watching two movies at the same time, Selma and watching King, you know, and we all know that Martin Luther King Jr. is great, one of the greatest speakers ever. Great orator, did a lot of things, but also a very flawed man, you know, and that we and we don't talk about that part of it, that as great as he was as a speaker, that tongue was used more, not just for delivering from the pulpit. It probably was between quite a few legs, you know. Very, very good point. Very good point right there. Right there. Very good point. And so that one builds into the whole. I said this in my teaser when me and Tasha did it last night. You know that uncle at the barbecue at the party that you don't let them kids play with that uncle. You know what I'm saying? You know, and that uncle, that praying uncle, predator uncle, I should say, it is about power. This person is an authority, and it could be an uncle you really, really like. And I'm gonna say this one here when it comes to the whole uncle and molestation. We're gonna talk about some specific things in just a moment. How much of it, guys, do you think is that, especially as men, Kennard, I want you to speak to this. As black men, it's also inbred in us not to tell certain things if it happened to you as a boy, you know. And so we always think about girls getting molested. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kennard. What I was going to say is that we always, when we think about a kid getting molested, the image, used to always be come to mind that it's a little girl, that the uncle is touching her or some priest is touching her, this and that. Not talking about the Catholic Church, but one of the probably things that we never talk about, there's just as much touching, inappropriate touching, fondling that goes on with little boys as it is with girls. And once upon a time, we used to think that this was only a white people thing problem that happened. No, this happens quite frequently in black families. We hear those stories from Tyler Perry, from Lee Daniels, you know, y- myself. The reason why I brought that up, we talk about family secrets and how it affects relationships. I was molested. Now, I've never come forward, and I'm not one of those to do the whole me too, because I never looked at it as it ruined my life. And that's the reason why I can't snuggle up with a woman and I don't like to hold a woman and I don't like to kiss and nothing like that. No, no, all of those things I developed on my own, for my own personal reasons. But the other truth is, not only was I exposed to sex way too early by a female, I was also inappropriately touched by a male. And I kept that to myself until this very moment. Until this very moment. Kennard, I'll let you say what you was going to say. I don't want you to lose your thought. Wow. 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 Ooh, woo, woo. You preaching some deep ones right there, Kennard. Seriously, and this is ones that I know I've talked to my friends about all the time. You wonder why they're so in black families. You hear when they talk about little girls, you know what they describe them as? Oh, she's just fast. Well, her little fast ass, this and that. You know what I'm saying? You know, but Kennard just hit on that point, and the hairs on my arm are standing up because it's generational, though. Because behaviors get passed down, and we all know that kids mimic what they see. You can preach all you want to. You guys have children. You can tell them, but they are watching. They see, and they mimic behavior. And so it's no secret that in this TikTok age that we got 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds that's so hypersexualized that it's no wonder grown ass men are looking at them in that way, you know? And so it's because they're mimicking behavior that they've seen, but it's a deeper root behind it. As Kennard said, a lot of it is generational. And I'm gonna tell a story, and sis, I want you to jump in here when you can, because we're gonna kind of at this stage, we're gonna kind of look into the darkness and bring a lot of this to the light. And Sherry, I want are you with me, sis? Okay. Our mom grew up in Meridian, Mississippi. I, Look, I don't call this real talk for real men because I shy away from telling certain truths. And this is one that I want to tell about something. And yeah, it can be embarrassing, like we established on the front end, and it's things we keep inside. But my mom is the strongest woman that I know for the things she's lived through. We grew up hearing about my mom cleaning people houses, white people houses, and she's left in a house as a 16, 17-year-old girl, and at that time had a killer body on her with the white homeowner who she spent her entire day fending off his sexual advances. Sherry, am I lying? Now let's add to that, because my mom had her first child when she was 16. So now we know she was sexually active. And at that time in the South, multiple generations of families lived under the same roof. You see, where we live now, where it's just one family in a house, that's not the way it used to be, especially in the deep South, where you got cousins and uncles and aunts and aunties and third cousins all living under the same roof. And I remember the scene in the movie from Color Purple where Oprah Winfrey's character, she said, "A woman child ain't safe in a family of men's." And there's some deep truth to that, because it took us a lot of years. Sherry attests to this. We have a sister, whoo, Lord, that didn't grow up with us. And Sherry, I'm looking on her face. There's some deep seated family secrets that we just don't talk about in our family. And it took me and my sister the powers of deduction and looking into it. And I'm sorry if anybody watches this and feel like I'm exposing a little too much. It is what it is, but there are children of rape. There are children of there's a lot that goes on into a family, and when you get down to this generation, and Kanar, you talked about it being generational, you wonder how did that affect the generation that you get down to it. Well, coming from a large family, not one member of my family has more than 3 children. You think that didn't affect them? We grew up in a family where there wasn't a lot of affection. I genuinely struggle to think about a time when I was hugged and kissed. You know when I got hugged and kissed? If you were sick, if you had the flu, that's when you got the Vicks Vapor Rub rubbed on your head and neck and stuff like that, and, you know, but that lack of affection, it affects relationships. So, you wanna say, "Well, how did that affect" I'll talk about me personally. I'm not as an affectionate person. I had to learn the truth of the matter is, since we're talking about how it affects relationships, I had to learn how to be affectionate to my wife because it didn't come natural. It was not a natural thing. And even till this day, I'm not a big person when it comes to public displays of affection. It feels wrong. And so when I've had girlfriends, I've had to make a conscious effort to hold somebody's hand, to hug them in public, because I know that that's needed, but it didn't feel natural to me because certain things were passed down to me. Ooh, ooh, wow, wow, wow. Anybody else want to speak to that their personal experience? I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. It is now. It is now. Uh, Absolutely. 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 Right. She's not right. She's not making that up. Yeah. And so I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna speak out on one of somebody I love, but what to your point, that very sentiment is for my dude, R. Kelly. I love that man's music. Lord knows I do, and I have figured out a way to separate the man from the art. But what you're talking about, Kennard, is that very same thing. Because his music is so great, we as a people, we didn't want to see him demonized, that we were willing to overlook a lot of those things because look, he didn't just start out liking young girls one day. We knew he had a problem. We knew Michael Jackson had a problem. You don't wake up one day and all of a sudden he like a 16-year old. Candace knows him personally. This didn't happen in one day, but you know what? Because of his talent, because of his music, and when you're sitting at the top of the pedestal, there is a fear to tear the person down, like you said, Kennard, whether it's a preacher, a deacon, but even some of our sports idols, even some of our singers, that we just don't want to bring them down, because of what they represent. You all right? You all right? You all right? You all right? I'll take that. Right, right. That's my dude. That's my dude. Okay. Okay. And that's why, as a man, it's harder for me to process what you feel with that because he was such an idol to me. Add to that all of the behaviors that he's accused of, I'm guilty of as well. Not the underage part, but I pissed on a few. So, so Sh- Sherry, wow, 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 wow. I believe it. I truly believe it. Go ahead, Sherry. And let me ask you this, sis. that also comes from what Daracel just said. When you was young with the Coke bottle shape, how often were you approached by men that was much older than you? Okay. Darcel, what you just said is a perfect segue into where I wanted to go next because I wanted to highlight some of the things that have caused shame and that's been a part of the darkness when it comes to keeping family secrets. And that actually was number one, believe it or not. It talks about divorce. Whenever I'm researching for these topics, I'm always amazed by when I discover these facts and it rolls in my head and I get to an opportunity to kind of see how it applies because I never thought about divorce as being something of a family secret that could alter how we look at relationships in terms of shame. But to you just said that because as I was looking, I was thinking about it. It didn't hit me at first because I don't. My mom wasn't married. Well, she was married, but husband wasn't in the house. We didn't grow up with a father figure, so it was always just my mom. And so for me, I didn't process it that way. But to your point, Daracel, for children of divorce, and for them, that's probably a big thing to all of a sudden go from the stable household to now my parents are divorced and I'm going to keep that a secret. And then how that manifests itself is that last part you said, younger girls looking for a father figure, you know, and I can sit here and tell you as a one time predator, I'm keeping it honest. I'm keeping it real. I'm keeping it real. I literally preyed on the fatherless daughters because let's go back to an episode of Good Times. We all black. We just played Black Card Revoked. You missed it on Saturday, Darcel. Everybody know who James Evans is, right? Do you remember the episode when Thelma was dating a college student and he was writing a thesis? Anybody remember that episode? Well, in the episode, Florida and James was upset because the books was Sex in the Ghetto, and James and Florida was upset. And when they turned to the page where the guy had interviewed Thelma, he talked about that in households where there is a stable father figure, there's less tendencies for premarital sex, and that was the crux of the show. And that episode, mind you, was back in the 60s and the 70s, I should say. It's still true today. It's still very true today. So when I use the term predator, you damn right. When I was out there as the big bad wolf, I wasn't going to nobody's house where there was a strong father figure that could whoop my ass. You know, I'm finding those women that I knew. No, ain't no dad in this home. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Josh. You okay? Okay. I got you. So let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. So since you said that, and I happen to, I don't know your father, but I know your father, that he's there. I know he's a strong, decent man. When you look back on that now, do you say to yourself that you were rebelling against something? Why do you feel like that hypersexualized activity that you went through at that young age? Why? I got you. I got you. I got you. I saw Sherry shaking her head, so I knew you had something to say on that. Go ahead, sis. No, because I want you to tell about your rebellion. Because we remember now there wasn't a father in the household, but Tasha, when you talk about rebelling, Sherry, you tell for you what it was. What it was. I was a good obedient child, just so you know. I was the obedient one. Right. Wednesdays and Fridays. Correct. So let me highlight how that affected she and I differently. And welcome, Bert. Welcome, Hannah. I did pronounce it right, right, Sherry? Right? Okay, Hannah. Tasha gets on me. Hannah, how you doing, Hannah? What's going on, Bert? Y'all welcome to join the panel as well. But Sherry's right, where I was the obedient documentary reading guy. What nobody knew is I led a completely double life because there was a shame of me letting my family know that how could this straight A, perfect attendance, do no wrong kid be into this depraved things? But the secrets that nobody knew was I was being molested. I was dealing with my own shit. And so, how do you balance as a 10, 11-year-old kid? Who do you tell? Who do you go say that this is happening to me? But wait a minute, you get perfect grades. You never miss school. You have perfect attendance. You're the smartest person in the whole freaking school. not in class, in the whole freaking school. At 10, 11 years old, I had a radio talk show, right, Sherry? I went to school 7 days a week. I went to regular school. I went to a Catholic school program on Saturday. Think about all the shit I'm telling y'all. And on Sunday, I went to a college prep program. I was being raised to be the next Martin Luther King Jr. I toured around giving speeches with Muhammad Ali and the mayor of New York City. I'm not making this shit up. This is the God's honest truth. So who do you tell if on the one hand, I'm doing all of this, who do you go tell that we're on the back end, I got shit happening to me? Cause who gonna, like you said, who gonna believe me? Shame. I felt. Let me tell you the God's honest truth. Me and Sherry is tighter than tight, but there is no way I could tell anybody what I was going through. And do you know, sis, I couldn't wait to leave New York City to be able to explore like a serial killer all these pent up urges and explore them full. Stop laughing, Tasha, because you you know. But seriously, because I knew if I went somewhere else, nobody knows me, so I could be a different person. And that's look, look. I had to acting. So I'm gonna say to y'all right now, had I not got all that shit out, I probably would have been a serial killer because I had all this shit going on in my brain. So yeah, I want to know what it's like to sleep with a midget. And she don't have no arms. That ought to be interesting. Let me see what she got going on. So yeah, I went on. I went there. You know. Nobody knew D. No. Good. Okay. 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 I understand. I understand. Right. Very Very good point. Go ahead. Right, right, but I want to say something to that in a second. But let's bring Hana in here. Welcome, Hana. Thank you for coming on camera. Come on in this conversation. Come on. Mm, okay, okay, okay. Right. I agree. I just want to say something as a man because again, I don't know, but what I surmise is this. So just listening to you guys, you're highlighting that not every young girl is hyper sexually active. But to Tasha's question, so if you got a parent out here that's just automatically assuming to put her on birth control, I think though the other part that's missing is how many of them are having a real conversation then with that 11-year-old, that 12-year-old to talk to them about sex because that may be the piece that's missing then because my thing is I know parents right now that exposed their kids to birth control at 12, 13 years old and didn't have the talk. And again, I know no probably the younger generation don't even know what that expression means, but I come from a time when you had the talk. But how many parents are out here having the talk? So that's so you see the you know, Right. Good point. Good point. Good point. Good point. Good point. Good point. Oh wow. True. Very true. Hannah, very true. Because I can even say in our household, we didn't get to talk. Sherry was saying, but you know what we did here? Welfare office on 125th Street. So the fear was putting you that if you do have sex, it's automatically gonna lead to getting pregnant. And so there is a miseducation, that goes on, and then even as a boy, hearing my mom telling my sisters that, oh my God, the fear was unreal, thinking that, hell, at one point I thought that if I rubbed my thing up against a girl, that she was gonna get pregnant. You know what I'm saying? So shit. See, see, who did that talk come from, Tasha? Now hold on now. I want y'all to hear this. Your stepmom, white or black? Yep, yep. No, Derek makes that point. Derek says it's sad to say you may need to have the talk with your kids early in the time that we live, and they're right, because I said this to somebody earlier today. Your children are walking around with a computer every day. When you hand them a tablet or a iPhone or whatever, in our day, if you wanted to see porn or something, you had to sneak all around like a damn, no secret agent to get somebody to buy you a sex magazine and hide it under the bed and shit, or jack off to J.C. Penney or some shit, where where now they got porn on tap. Everything's exposed to them. So you cannot assume anymore that just because they're young, you're right, D. They're gonna hear from, and I'm gonna tell you something. The girls have always been more developed than boys anyway, mentally, emotionally. And so you talking about that was in my time. Can you imagine now? These young girls, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? Sure, please. Hmm. Yep. Yep. Right. Uh-huh. Wow. 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 which tells you again, like Derek said, you know, kindergarten kids are singing the song WAP. Again, they're exposed to this at an early age. So that brings us to how we have to, no, no, and it's true. And what's funny about that is, so again, what's funny about that is where you might be like, well, no, I'm not gonna let my child listen to that. For every one of you that's not gonna let your child listen to that, there's 100 kids that do let their young daughters sing this song WAP, like Derek say, word for word, even though mentally they might not even understand what they're singing about. And so that brings us to coping with the truth, because that's the first step. You got to accept the truth of it, that it's real, that there is a problem, because those parents themselves, see, we can already say that the parents we're talking about, we're not talking about big mamas. We're talking about grandmothers in their 30s. We're talking about kids growing up in households where they're being raised by aunties. We're talking about young men growing up in households where there is no father figure. So the young men are learning how to be a man and learning about sex from Lil Uzi and Lil Word or whoever the fuck these people are. You know what I'm saying? And so their idea of manhood is their pants slagging off their ass, and half of them look feminine. So, their idea of what it means to be masculine, and to, you got kids making babies out here, and it all can be traced back to behaviors that nobody talks about, because we keep kicking that can down the road, passing it along, as if it's going to get better. And so we got to get to a point where, how do we face the truth? So we know that no family is immune from family secrets. Let's be honest out there. And I didn't even really get a chance to go into all the different types of secrets, where we could talk about secrets of adoption or alcoholism, about what about when there's a job loss and you poorer than people think. See, all these things we don't think about. The extramarital affairs. We never even talked about homosexuality. We never even talk about homosexuality, the exposure to that, gambling problems, physical abuse. This stuff is real and it happens, and in more families than you will imagine, and it's real. But we hide it. We don't talk about it. We pretend that it doesn't happen. And so when now we face to the fact, well, let's cope with the truth of it. That every last one of us, there's something that's happened in our background, in our families. How do you deal with it? So I want to kind of go around the room, and I'm not asking you to tell what's your family secret is, but how do you deal with the fact that there are things that has happened traumatically in even your life personally or with your family? How do you deal with it personally? So how do you cope? I told a little bit about my story, and just to reiterate, as I've gotten older, I realize things that have shaped me into who I am. You know, I don't choose to look at it and say that it's made me unlovable or I can't hold a relationship or whatever, but I'm also truthful enough to say that it has affected my relationships. To be honest with you, marriage and relationships are very difficult for me, because I'm so private that I don't like to share a lot of who I am, and I realize that that comes from things that I've had to protect in myself, and I'm not as affectionate as I should be. I had to teach myself how. I didn't have anybody teach me how to be affectionate, so I had to learn to do that. I'm still learning. And so, yeah, I'm working on myself. That's for me. Anybody, how are you coping with your family secrets? Do you know that's considered the step one? There's a five step that I pulled up. It talked about Tasha letting yourself feel. It said you might feel discomfort, disgust, anger, pain, denial, rejection, grief, apathy. You're allowed to feel whatever you need to feel behind it, but long as you acknowledge it. So that's the step one is facing the truth of it. Anybody else want to add? You know, I love you guys as an audience because you're so intelligent and you just make this more easier than I ever could imagine. Step two is processes your emotions in a healthy way. It literally talks about being able to talk with a safe, trustworthy person. And so you talk about your husband being your best friend. You also talked about therapy. Now, we all know that we're just now as a people getting comfortable with the idea that we can go to therapists because we know that growing up in black families, we're told to take some Robitussin and lay your monkey ass down, or leave it at the altar. You know what I'm saying? But as we've grown and become more intelligent, we know that it doesn't make you mentally insane to go talk to somebody you trust because we've held all of that negative energy in so much that we got to get it out. And that your husband is your best friend. Not everybody has a husband. Somebody asked me just today, and I ain't gonna say somebody. My boy, I was on dealing with a numbskull today in business, Candace, and my boy was like, "Damn." He said, "Man, I see what you deal with." And I told him, "You know how I deal with it? I curse and get all of that out right there in that moment, so I don't carry that next energy to the next call." Anybody who's worked alongside of me, they know that I'm a trip to listen to because my typical call for me is, why do you want to go to school? You want to be a scuba, you want to be an influencer. Okay, well, we can't help you with that. Okay, well, have a good day. You dumb motherfucker, you. And that's kind of how I deal with it. Right in that very next moment, I let it out that you a damn numbskull. And so it's my way of getting it out of my system. But even when I'm dealing with something serious, you can't keep that energy in. I'm sorry. Somebody want to say something? Hmm. Hmm. Right. Wow. Right. 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 Okay. Okay. There you go. You remind me of something Daracell told us at the very beginning of our early show. She said, "A girl's father." I'm quoting you, D. You said is the first man to disappoint her. Didn't that? Is that not what you said? You know, and so I had never looked at it that way. Again, I don't know what it's like to have a father. And when she told me that, I internalized that, and I always remember that, and I thought about the power of that. That damn, you know what I'm saying? And I think about you fathers who have daughters and the weight of that, you know what I'm saying? Because she says like a girl's dad is the first man to disappoint her because he's the standard of what she sees as a man. So to hear you tell that story it's very powerful, you know. So yeah, that's something. Man, so okay, so D, you said that's so simple. Yeah, we hear you. Was you finished? Because I want to ask a question behind that. Right. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, D. When you started going to your therapist, did your therapist encourage you to journalize your experiences, to write it down? Ah, wow. Wow. Okay. Hmm. I like that. That's a really good point. Shoot. Yeah, we grew up in a kind of family that, like I said, y'all think I'm joking, but you know, you better go take some Robitussin and lay your monkey ass down. You know, I'm laughing. I'm laughing, but I gotta share something with y'all. I'm laughing, but I gotta share something with y'all. She's not lying, and I hate when she say that because my sister know that I hate when she say that. But I wish I could tell you she's the only sister that beats men. She's not. My see, see. Thank you, for not being violent. Thank you, D. See, your nasty freaky ass is thinking about something else. I tried the hitting thing at 16. At that time, it was popular to hit your girlfriend. So I was dating a young lady named Cleo. Yeah, it was popular in New York to beat your girlfriend, slam her on the bench and beat her up and everything because women was loving it. Oh my God, he really loves me. So I said I'm going to go out and try that. I was dating a young girl named Cleo, slim, light skin. She was a yellow bone. Yeah, I was doing my thing. So okay, up one one night, 145th Street, I hauled off and popped her across her head and she lit into me like a whirlwind, and that was the end of that. So, so shit, I didn't like how I felt getting hit back. So that was my first hit and my last hit. I wouldn't have no. So don't put me in that. I wouldn't have. Okay, no, because I want to say my family was very violent, very very violent. Right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, no, I get what you're saying. I'm letting the audience know out there in audience world. The one of the reasons why I was so smart is I joined every club group you could think of because they were some violent ghetto mother suckers. So, you know, well, no, she got beat. You know, Sherry, what do you mean? What about it? Yeah, well, yeah, but that's a whole nother subject where my sister was built and I got questioned and things like about that. But again, I was not a violent person. Again, I abhorred violence. But as I was telling you guys, I was dealing with my own level of double life stuff, you know. And so honestly, I wasn't about to share all of that with anybody. You know, I genuinely had to process all that and learn from it. So even when I got married at 21, I wasn't a bit more ready for marriage. I took that level of toxicity into a marriage and I did the best I could. But to be honest with you, I had no example of a father or that I could lean on. I had to pick from different marriages that I saw that I thought, well, I like what he does. And he looks like he does this well. And so I had to pick from those things to try to be the best husband I know I could be. I apologized to my ex-wife. I was a decent husband, but I wasn't ready for marriage, you know. And a lot of that is because of the baggage that I used to tell people, oh, I don't have any baggage. Doing this subject, as I established from the beginning, we all have baggage, believe it or not. We all have some baggage that we drag into a relationship. It's how you process it, and that's what we're talking about right now. So that's why I was asking about, did your therapist say write it down? Because for some people, when you write it down, it becomes real, it becomes valid, you know. And so you guys were talking about earlier that as black girls, it's inbred in you that you don't matter. And I think nobody's teaching black girls to write it down that your thoughts, your ideas, your dreams are valid. That if nobody else don't hear me, this is real. This happened to me. So that's why I asked that question, D. So I know what Sherry was saying. Correct. Correct. The most educated, no, no, the most, no, no. When I put them statistics up, the most educated on the earth is black women. You guys are have a thirst for knowledge and still are overlooked in so many ways. And so that's kind of what we're talking about here in this, which brings me to the next step, understanding how betrayal can get in the way of forgiveness. I thought that this is a huge one because so many times we carry this shame, this guilt of what's happened to us and to other relationships. Because guess what? Either we won't forgive ourselves or we won't forgive the person that committed that against us. And you might say, well, why would you forgive the uncle that molested me or the father that beat me or the mother that taught me some habits or didn't teach me certain things right? I always tell people this in my personal opinion, forgiveness is not about them, it's about you. It's not about them. And so even for me in my own personal situation, that's why I said to you guys, I choose not to look at it as, well, this turned me into this person because I can't control what happened in the past. It happened. But what I decided to do was that's not going to define me. You know what I'm saying? So I know right from wrong, and I have to try to be a better person. And it's a process, So when I use the term predator, I don't, I'm not proud of it, but I own it. But I do own it. Ooh, okay. Okay. Wow. R- Right. Right. That's seriously, and that's serious. Wow. Wow. I agree, and it's just sad to hear though that for a daughter and a mom, that breaks my heart in a way that you say if she died, that the thought that you might not even go to the funeral, that tells you how deep family secrets and the pain and stigma and the trauma can cut, that here we are, that so that's it's sad, but again, for your own health of you personally and for your family, you had to make a decision to forgive and let it go. So I understand that. And so that brings me to the last three things I want to talk about, in terms of moving forward, because after we brought all of the darkness into the light, we know that, you know, that we faced it. So where do we go from here? And can family secrets sometimes even be a good thing? You know? So I want to ask a question. In what way can family secrets be a good thing? What good can come from it? I ain't gonna say come from it, but how do you spin the negative into the positive? Anybody? Come on, Kennard. I like that. I like that. I like that thought. Come on, Hannah. Wow. Hmm. Wow. Self-reliance, self-reliance and independence, you know. Okay. Okay. I like that. Again, self-reliance and independence. We called that growing up in our household, Hannah. God bless the child. That's what we learned in our household because my mother used to say, if you want to do your own thing, go get your own place. And so, Sherry, right, and so even for all of us, you get grown, and when you want to do your own thing, you want to pay the cost to be the boss, you leave, but it teaches you self-reliance and independence to stand on your own. But I want to add one thing to a good thing about when it comes to secrets, because here's what you want to understand too. There's a difference between privacy and secrecy. So, on the one hand, it's okay to share things to get off your chest when it's healthy. But there are times when you don't have to divulge every little thing that's going on, because the other good thing about it is sometimes that can protect you. It can make you a stronger person too. And I'll say, even for me, I wouldn't be who I am. So despite all of the negativity, it also made me who I am. Like you said, I can stand on my own 2 feet, and I've been through some shit. Because I think for a lot of the generation that came behind me, they're so weak and they give in to every little thing that breaks them. And so for me, what those experiences taught me is you can't break me. You cannot break me. And so we were talking at the beginning of this conversation about today is inauguration day. Tasha says it's just another Wednesday. She's right. She's right. Well, I'm saying it in this sense. While we celebrating that, the end of a nightmare, and I can celebrate that, but you know where she's right? Tomorrow I still got to get my monkey head ass up and go to work. Cause tomorrow's Thursday. And regardless as if Agent Orange was in office or the old man, I still got to go to work and do what I got to do. So that the reality is, it's just another day, in the sense that I got to still get up and do the things that keep my life moving forward. And so, in that sense, Tasha's right in a sense that I don't ever get too high on what's going on. I don't get too low, because I'm distinctly aware of who I am, and that those same secrets that maybe did some damage also made me stronger, and it's made me private, because there's a difference between being private. Because what you don't want to do, though, you don't want to be this new generation that you share every little thing about yourself. Every time somebody talk to you, woe is me, he on, the Eeyore, the donkey and shit, that everything bothers me. And oh my God, the sky is falling and this, that, you don't want to be that person. You know, go ahead. Darcel is proof of it. Yep. because because Hana was physically abused, and hey, I know what that's like, so I'm not gonna do that to my kid. You see what I'm saying? Daracel, you know what I'm saying? I forgive, but Steve is my best friend, and I got somebody I can share shit with, and I'm gonna raise my kids in a different environment. Candace, same way. Sherry, again, one daughter, and the closeness of it. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, D. I feel you. Bravo. 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 Well, me and Sherry share the same father, and we're told that Fred was a drunkard, so I come by my drinking naturally, but I don't beat women. But I don't beat women. So no, no. So I took some of the things from him. No, no. Okay. I do think for me, it comes. I started drinking, secretly when I was 12 years old. But again, I can hold my because to on a serious note, to Daracel's point, I heard the stories about him getting sloppy drunk and beating my mom. So it's kind of funny that you say that, D. I was determined to handle my liquor. So for me, I'm in the opposite. When I get really, really lit, either I sit and smile or I might talk crazy. Tasha and Darren see me truly lit, but I'm not violent. I'm more funny than violent. Yeah. So they can tell you some experiences when I'm really, really when I'm lit, but I'm not violent. But I'm never violent. Now I might go to Taco Bell and demand that they serve me some French fries, but but I ain't gonna hurt nobody. And that's what I'm talking about. Gone, gone. So yeah, but I take all those experiences, and again, it's made me who I am, a better person. So yeah, I agree with what Tasha says. And so the other point is to drive it home, I'm not defined by other people's secrets. As I talked about in the very beginning, I acknowledge what my mom has gone through. My brothers and sisters lived through some shameful shit, and they keep secrets, and they gonna probably take them to the grave. I don't know all those things. I stopped chasing that though because that can't define me. I live in the South right now because what the South mean for them, it doesn't mean for me. So that doesn't define me. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I have to live my own experiences, and I respect the hell out of what they've gone through. These are some of the strongest people I know, and I wish they would open up a little bit more. But again, as we go down the generations, they're still dealing with keeping that inside. And for me, I had to let a lot of that go, and so I had to open up and let a lot of that go and realize, you know what, that's not going to define me. That I want to be better, I want to do better, and that's where I am in terms of building me up to be a better person. You know. Last point, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? So for me, when I looked at it, talked about make a decision, decide where do you go from here. And so I said for me, I own it all. I own my good and I own my bad. And the only thing we can do, in my opinion, it's not a New Year's resolution, it's a life resolution. I tell people I'm always trying to evolve to be a little bit better today than I was yesterday. I came on tonight with a mission not to curse as much. I slipped up a few times, but I'm trying to tone it down. I wanted to be a little bit better with this show than I've been with other shows. And so it's small things, but that's the thing. On a serious note, it's making small incremental steps where you can be a little bit better, so that hopefully for me, since we're talking about this as it affects relationships, I I talked to Darcel about this a few months back. I was in the gym, believe it or not, with my fat self. But I was talking to her one night and I was in the gym and I was telling her that I'm working on myself to try to be a little bit better. And I realized my faults. And so for me, that hopefully when that next right person come along, I know a lot of my triggers and I can be a little bit better, and that's all I can do is that, I have to be, I have to work on being a little bit more affectionate. I have a sharp tongue to try to be a little bit more loving towards when I'm talking to that person. Be completely open and honest about who I am, because my hope is that that person falls for me and all of who I am. But if that's the case, I gotta not be as judgmental as well and fall for all of who she is, because that's the other tendency is for me to be looking for something that I'm not necessarily bringing to the table myself. So I'm trying to get better. So that's my whole thing when it comes to it. So I'll let you ladies kind of say for you how you plan on moving forward. Because where do you go from here with your family secrets? Anybody? Wow. Wow. Well, well, now I am gonna say we the prize too now. I love that. And I'm gonna have to do a show on that because men, we the damn prize too now. I- Okay, I like that. Anybody else? Hmm. Okay. Okay. Sherry, where do you go from here? Okay. 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 Darcel, where do you go from here when it comes to family secrets? I love the hope in that. Tasha, what I do. I really do. You know, and the thing of it is we have to change people one subscriber at a time, you know. Tasha, where do you go from here? That I love. So I'll end on that note that I agree with 100%. I thank everybody for participating. I love the sentiment from everybody, and it's clear that I think people want to do better. We're trying to be better, and like I said to Daracel, hopefully we can just change one mind at a time. I think talking about it is where it starts. At the beginning of this conversation, a secret is a secret because nobody's talking about it. So the way you combat that is you put it out in the open. And at that point, you address it. It's real. You deal with it. And like Daracel said, going forward, you don't have to keep those kind of secrets. We can be better. We can be better. We can do better. And that's my hope. is that that we can just try to strive to be better people all the way around. And then, of course, for my men out there, D is still important. So regardless, we are the prize. Just y'all know that. But but so I have to say that. That's what I say. Fellas, they're not gonna give us that, but we know what's up. Anyway, I'm not disagreeing with any of that. I had one rule. I had one rule then, fellas, that you say, you know what? They can be the boss in every other room, but that one room. Handle your business, fella. So, with that said, it's been another good edition of Real Talk for Real Men. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Karma. I appreciate your comments. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to like, comment, to share, and please subscribe to the channel. Everybody have a great evening. So,